Holla. It's your boy George Billionaire, and as always, we are on our way to provoke, inspire, and equip you so that you can be the best version that Elohim, the Most High God, created you to be. You know, I've said this so many times that so many people are going to be so disappointed when they are shown a preview of the life they should have lived. But because they had so much fear, they were so full of excuses, they had every reason why they could not be what God wanted them to be. This is what's going to cause many people to regret. And this is why I'm here. I was sent from many years ahead to come and tell you who's watching us, who's listening to us, that all things, I repeat, all things, the word of God says, all things are possible to he or she who believes. So if you doubt yourself, you will never see the fullness of purpose of your life. If you doubt your ability, it's not money that starts a business. It's not money that has made people become successful, but it is self-belief, so much in oneself, that has caused people to become who they are. So the moment you begin to believe in yourself, I can tell you you're 80% there. All other things will follow. Once you have a serious belief that nobody can change yourself, your mindset, no environment, no people's opinions, once you have that belief, I can tell you you're going to be different from everybody else who is holding back, and your life will totally change. Let's go into the studio today. We're going to be talking about an amazing topic, and it's going to totally transform your life. Remember, don't just be a hearer. But be somebody who actually listens and applies that which you're going to learn today. Holla holla, it's your boy. Let's go.
Harare's Heartbeat. The name of the show is The Pulse with the Normalize and Just Precious. Unfortunately, for today, Mama Ole is not feeling well. We're sending love and light to her, wishing her a speedy recovery. I know the I hope she's listening. I don't know that. Like, and that's secret. And now, I'm something the manyad and those around. I want to say shout out to Gilbert Biriad in Isley. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, my Jason from Melbourne, thank you so much. Tavengo Chitanga ku app with Man Courage Shauru Katimire Park Rua. Mr. Livewire Stanford Chuma, thank you for tuning in. Mr. Isaac Piri, Willard Cameo for Belvedere, I hope you are doing well. Let us know where you're listening to us from and also how your day is going. It is a Monday and the 1st of June. What's the plan for June? But of course, no pressure. No pressure, no right? Pressure. No pressure at all. And now, of course, we get into Hustle Hard with George Billionaire. Holla, holla.
Holla, holla.
So there's a thing that I'm supposed to play. Pressure sana chiwandisa.
That one's the movie mama.
Kuchiwana kwangu koneza manje no problem.
Did you find it? You just
I think it's the one. If it says otherwise, forgive me. And we get it in advance.
yes. The one.
It's the one.
Well
Yay! Well done, Noma. Right. Holla, holla.
Holla, holla. It's your boy, George Billionaire, with the amazing ladies, as always, in the studio on this amazing show called Hustle Hard. And as always, if you are not going to be provoked, inspired, or equipped after this show, we would have not done what we came on this show to do, because we love to transform people's mindsets. We love to get people to think and understand that truly, all great people who have become known in the world today are just the same like you and I who are existing on this planet today. But the only difference is that they had a certain level of belief in themselves and what they wanted to do, and they worked hard on that specific thing, which is why now They are written in papers. They are called the elites of this world. They are number one in their industry simply because of this one thing. And this is why we are on this show, so that you too can also become like them. The many people we talk about on this show who simply used simple principles. And in life, if we understand this, no success happens overnight. There are certain things that you must do. If ever you want to have a harvest of maize cobs, you must plant a seed, water it, de-weed things from stealing from the food from that crop until it grows and it matures. There's nobody who ever got a bumper harvest without applying the simple principles that actually cause a harvest to materialize. So here on the show, we teach principles. These are not get-rich-quick schemes. These are not, overnight success stories, but these are principles that if even you apply today, who is listening to us for the first time or for the 100th time, or you've been a dedicated pulsar on this show, if you just apply, the key thing with everything we teach on this show is application of knowledge is what will result in success. It's not just the knowledge. Remember, I've said it, knowledge is not power unless it is applied. So let us apply these things that we shall learn today and all the things we've learned on previous shows so that our lives can definitely be better.
All right. So today's topic, we are talking about, the topic is the biggest risk is to take no risk at all. I want to give you the drum.
Right. So
Talk to us.
Stage is yours.
Right, so, the biggest risk that people can take today is actually thinking that they're going to come out of this life alive. Now, all of us are here for a specific time, and what we're going to do with that time ultimately is going to result in where we're going to end up. Now, there are many people who we all know who became successful, who started companies, who've done so many great things. All these people did one thing that probably you, because of where you are today, are not where you should be. These people took risks. Now, what is a risk? Risking is doing something that other people didn't do. And like I always say here, he or she who is willing to do what others are not willing to do, who have what others do not have. Now, if I look into the country of Zimbabwe or even abroad, for us to have a network company, one man had to decide to sell his house, to take a risk, to begin something in order for that thing now, many years later, to be in existence today. There's a man who started a soccer team many years ago. And because of that risk, that soccer team now is one of the most followed soccer teams in the world. There's a man who started a business. Had he not taken that risk, I could go on and on with the various people out in the world with the risk that they took. And the risk does not guarantee you an immediate reward. But he or she who takes a risk will always have what the person who is comfortable, who is okay with where they are, they will never get to see or taste the land of the person who took a risk. Now, every person who I know today who is called successful took a risk. They opened a shop. They decided to sell a product or a service. It's a huge risk. And I always reiterate and I speak about the time that I started Pro Air. I took a risk from earning $300. I took a risk that could have affected the trajectory of my family. And when you take a risk, like I've said many a times, there are many people who will laugh at you. I remember standing at the robots, giving out flyers. It was a risk. But that risk, 14, 15 years down the line, has become something that others who never took a risk can only stare and say, we know that guy. We went to school with that guy. Takakura nayo itomziva. But the only difference is taking a risk. So he or she who takes a risk will definitely get what others do not get, because he who takes a risk now, if you look at it with us, had I remained employed, I would have never known the potential that I could actually have various customers, from serving the highest person in the land to serving various institutions with our air conditioning services, I would never know this side, and I would have just remained an 8 to 5 person. But because I took that risk, I now have ended up now getting multiple awards, being recognized, meeting people that I would have never dreamed of because I decided to take a risk. My brother, my sister, where you are today, you are going to live a very regretful life in your old age because you failed to take risks. People who fail to take risks are people who, Kuchkoro, I remember back in school, there are people who are so educated. They got 15 points, some even 20, 10 A's. Those people are not risk takers because the educational system taught them that true success is getting an A. So they stay inside the box. And there are many people who I grew up and I went to school with who used to have what is called imperative breakfast. They eat, if you come number 1 or 2 at school, you have breakfast with the headmaster of that school. That's such an accomplishment. But it's unfortunate when you come out of school, there's no more an A or a B. Now the real world looks for risk takers. That's why entrepreneurs are people who think outside the box. People who got A's, they are too academically qualified to see outside the box. They only stay in the box. And unfortunately, that box in Africa is what is called an 8 to 5. That's where we are confined. And we were taught at a young age, for you to be deemed successful, you go to school, you graduate, and you go and get a job. And that is true success. But that is the most, I don't know what to call it, thing that Africans have received because they have been lied to. And they will work for institutions for 20, 30 years, just being given an additional carrot to keep them going. And then you never ever get to realize your full potential as an individual. And you are not allowed to risk take. You are told that you must work 8 to 5 for 30 days for you then to get a harvest. And unfortunately, that's what majority of people have been told. And unfortunately, this is why we are not going to have more and more, especially black empowered people, because we were confined and told that risk taking is not for you. This is why many people, when I preach and I speak this message, spirits cannot somuka, George, it's for your type of people. But this is the unfiltered truth that if you actually become a risk taker, you actually can be able to change your life. Because the last time I checked, there's nobody who ever became rich on a salary. There's no one. There's nobody who lived the life that they want on a salary alone. Let me rephrase that. Because many people think just that one job is enough. My message to people, which I keep emphasizing here, is when you start what is called a side hustle and you are passionate about it, sooner than later you'll begin to see that your side hustle is paying you more than your 8 to 5. And if you give your side hustle more time and more dedication, like I did many years ago, it will be able by far to take care of you, your family, your community, and at mostly your country at large. But because you do not like to take risks, because you fear, you are so full of fear, what if it fails? Actually, no, the economy. No, you know what, in fact, it's politics. No, in fact, you know what, if only they change this, that, and the other. But my brother and sister listening, if you have this mindset of not being able to take a risk, of you're full of excuses, full of excuses, you are always going to envy others who understood that true wealth and success only happens to he or she who is willing to risk it. Because only the great riskers actually made it out in life.
All right, so I think my question is coming with you. How do you get out of that bubble? Because society has made it seem like if you have a job,
It's a safety net. Yes.
How do you get out of
at least to know that about the right.
And I'm then like, do you know one thing I've realized? Chiroga put $1,000. I was talking to somebody and this Chiroga pay $1,000. It's never enough.
True.
Because $300 or $400 but it's also not enough. How do you get out of that babu? But at least we are every month.
Yeah.
What if I want to take the risk? Even if I say every month, I'm doing something dirty. It's me and myself only. How do you get out of that?
You know, beautiful question, and I've read this question so many times. Do you know what fear is? Do you know what fear is? Fear is something that you imagine in your mind. So fear abbreviated stands for false. Remember, false evidence appearing real to you. There are people who are fearful of the dark. There are people who are afraid that if they start, they will fail. You understand?
Yeah.
So fear is a mindset. You grew up being told, don't sit by the road. You need a motor, right? It's something instilled in you. Worse off with our parents who understood 8 to 5, like the back of their, they understand it. So whenever you speak entrepreneurship, because they don't know it, they'll instill this fear. But it's better you get your $300. But I can tell you this, and maybe this is what changed my mind. I remember it before I started Pro Air. I went to business seminars where I would hear the likes of Philip Chiangwa, Nigel Chanakira, Strive, all these great people who we know in the country of Zimbabwe and even some abroad. But with them, similar to me, they grew up in a high-density suburb. They didn't have much, but their association changed their mindset. And they understood, but wait, fear is just an imagination. And I can actually become great. And because they did it, which is why my major encouragement to people is, if you look at all the people around in the country of Zimbabwe today who are making it, they don't have fear in them. They were uncomfortable earning $300, $1,000. And then they said, but wait, what can I do that can give me more? And this is where people have the biggest excuses. Remember, in a country like many others which has problems, why don't you become a solution to one of the problems that the country is facing so that people can come to you and pay you for that product or service you're providing? But now people, because they are full of fear, just like I used to think, I never used to think I could be an entrepreneur because you were never exposed to any entrepreneurs. Nobody in your family is an entrepreneur. So entrepreneur. But if you hang around with similar-minded people, they will then begin to make you see that, wait a minute, you too can become great if you apply these simple principles. Because there's nobody who was born a leader. None. There was nobody born an entrepreneur. There's nobody who was born a doctor. There are certain things you become because of your affiliation. So once you get out of this bracket of being fearful and you hang around with other people who are speaking business, who are speaking money, who are not just pointing in people and saying, this one, they must have done something. If they did something for them to be where they are, why can't you also duplicate that something? Yeah. So also you can become a person who is self-reliant and independent, and you can actually have a whole lot more than currently what you're earning. So fear is a mindset that we need to change. Fear and poverty are very closely related. They are cousins. If you are full of fear, I can tell you poverty is just around the corner. But to those who have become amazing entrepreneurs, have a conversation with them. With all the turmoil, the hardships, whichever country, whether it's war happening there, they will still make a plan because they see the opportunity where majority of people see the problem.
I think but what kills us most of the time is, I think it's like people, apart from the fact that you're getting the money at the end of the month. In as much as, let's say you're getting $200, but you wish you could get 500. What makes us stay is hope. Yeah, it's hope that at some point they will see how hard I work to eventually, and of course top it out off with you understand? So where do we then draw the line from you being hopeful that okay, maybe eventually I'll get the 1,000 that I need, and sometimes a promotion some days, you know what, maybe don't just stay, then I get promotion and my salary will be there. Where do we draw the line? Or do we say until you work to a certain point, then or how do we go about it?
You know, I think I've said this, and I hope this really gets to somebody and it really provokes somebody. You know, there's nobody, I repeat, there is nobody coming to rescue you where you are. There's nobody. So if you think working harder in an organization is going to lead to your boss saying, but you know what, you guys, this month you did it. You did it, and I'm happy. In fact, you know what, I'm going to quadruple your salary. I don't know the last time that happened. And let us not, you know, pray all night saying, I hope my boss this month. There's no way, because you are working according to a contract that you signed, that after 30 days, I don't want to divide your salary by 30 for you to see how much you get a day, a full day. As provoking as it is, it should be able to say, but hey, am I really worth $10, $15, 20, 30? And understand, I hope my purpose on this show is to really get people to think outside. Because I used to also listen to people who used to provoke me and challenge me. And because of that, it made me begin to say, but anyway, really, can't I do something else? I'm staying at the job, yes. But with the little bit that I have, let me invest it in something. And you know, back then, when I used to stay in Glenora, you know, people in the community. So that entrepreneurial spirit had always been in me. But you started a little on a little. Once you begin to taste what, anyway, I just made my salary in 2 days. I think I should be more serious with this thing. That's when you actually begin to see that, wait a minute, I should focus more on this. Because the 8 to 5, I've said this before and I'll say it again in capital letters with an exclamation mark. Our jobs are not guaranteed in the next 5 years. To everybody listening. Our jobs, whether you are in ministry, whether you are in private sector, whether you are wherever, if you are to lose your job today, I don't want you to begin to imagine, Kuti, I wish I had started when I heard George saying, because with your salary, even if you get a package, 6 months alone, your life will be totally different. But because you're hearing this now, why not start something now? Whilst you still have the disposable income. Itorinane Maria urkutambira now. Because when you actually have no employment, due to AI, due to all these modernized things that are happening, due to a cheaper, younger workforce which is also coming up and graduating, the thing that we don't realize is that time is moving. And where you are comfortable getting all these corporate company benefits, you know, you'll only realize, I've never gone to a fuel station to put fuel. Because at our company, they take care of us. They give us medical aid. They give us all this. Once that is cut off, you will get a rude awakening. And you'll begin to say, but you know what? If I don't make a plan for myself, because you distribute your CVs to all corporates, but then either because of your age, because you want too much, because you are overqualified, because they can't afford you, it's going to be very difficult for you to get a job. So I love what we've done in this amazing country of Zimbabwe, where we are all empowered. It doesn't cost much to start a business. If you want to go and be part of the tender process, you're allowed. It's open for everybody. You just have to have the relevant paperwork that makes sure you participate. So don't say, it's just for those ones. This is open for all. But because you are afraid to risk the money you have to start a business, that money that you are holding back is going to hold you back from ever becoming somebody who could have changed so many things. You know, I look at it and I wonder if, you know, Strive Masiwa never decided to take that risk. All of us in the country are benefiting from a risk taken by somebody, right? I can never imagine right now I'm part of Scotland FC, right? Had the Honorable Scott never started that football club, would that club actually be in existence today? It wouldn't. But all it is that somebody decided to take a risk to start something. And then once you start it, you'll be amazed at how many people will come and support that thing. And this is where people get it wrong. Because if you remain at your job, yes, truly you'll remain just over broke. But your life will not change. And once that call, that email, Precious, thank you so much for the, not regret, we want to thank you for the many years that you have served with us. Unfortunately, due to our current financial situation, we want to alert you that you are saving your last 3 months. And that's that. And after Unova, you get a small package, and that's that. And you go around saying, I worked for that company for 15 years. Imagine, they never appreciated me. But you had the opportunity when you had all this disposable income. But because of fear and lack of risk-taking, because of the way we were brought up, which stems back to our educational system, we never got the information like we're getting here, which says that, you know what, you are the captain of your ship. You will determine where you end up. And if you remain where you are on this trajectory, I can tell you 5 years from now, you are going to be like, but wait, there was a prophet by the name George Billionaire who used to come on Hustle Hard, and he told us about these times. But because we didn't take it seriously. We thought that boat was going to keeping us for all these years. But it's just one bill that can change the whole organization. If a president from another country says that, all that stuff is stopped, and unfortunately all the people are going to be unemployed. One bill, one headline, a war, anything can change that comfort that you're at. So if you don't have something you're doing, if you're not willing to take a risk, my brother and sister, the Bible says the poor we shall always have. Yeah. And I don't want you who's listening or watching us to be part of that. We need to become people who transform not only our families, our communities, but at mostly the nation and the world at large.
Thank you so much for that. I think we did learn a lot. So this Capital 100.4 Marare is Heartbeat. We're 2 minutes away from the news. To those that want to get in touch, are we still doing those classes?
Right. So yes, we do have the GB mentorship program, and that's available on Instagram or on my George Billionaire Instagram page. Just inbox, you want mentorship, and definitely we will assist. There are classes, people do have to pay for them. They're very educational. They definitely will transform your lives. I think we give a lot of content here on air, which is free to all. So also all these programs that we've done here are available on YouTube. Go and watch all of them. And, for all those people, I think one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that understand this, without application of knowledge, we will only be people who say, wow, George, that was powerful. I was motivated. That was great. But your life will not change. But to those, so many who I meet around the country, they have started their own enterprises. They've lost their jobs, like we have spoken here on the show, but their lives did not stop. They made a plan, and at mostly, they are progressing in life. So to everybody out there, let's not just be hearers of what we're talking about, but let's actually apply. Application of knowledge equals to change and transformation of our lives.
All right, so thank you so much. And that's what we had today on Hustle Hard. It is 1 o'clock on Capital 100. Welcome to stand by for the news.